I recently discovered my wife cheated on me with my supposed best buddy. I'm lost for words, really struggling to grasp all that's happened. I met my wife Bella at college when we were both 18. Our first date sparked something real quick, and we were dropping I love yous in no time. Bella was pretty forward, and honestly, I was thrilled about it. We opened up about everything to each other. Her dad died from cancer in her last year of college, and I was there beside her every step of the way, especially through the hospital nights. Getting through that tough time really solidified our bond. She used to say she'd be lost without me, and even called me her soulmate. I was head over heels and didn't hesitate to propose a couple of years after we graduated. Life seemed perfect. I had married my dream girl, landed a great job right out of school, and both our families adored us. My best friend since third grade, Rick, was like a brother to me, or at least that's what I believed. Rick was like family to me. He'd also tied the knot and moved away because his wife got a high-flying job at a prestigious law firm. But tragedy struck a year ago when she died in a car accident, shattering Rick completely. He moved back, but he wasn't the same guy anymore. I did my best to support him, though he shut out just about everyone. Understanding his grief wasn't easy, so I suggested to Bella that she should try talking to him, hoping her experience with loss might help. Looking back, that was a big mistake. Bella started spending loads of time at Rick's, hiking, movies, lunches, just the two of them, like a couple. This was way more than I bargained for, and it sure made me uneasy, though it seemed to cheer Rick up. What I didn't know was that Bella had always thought Rick was a sleaze. Back in the day, he was notorious for jumping from one fling to another, even cheating on his late wife. Bella despised him for it, and often wondered why I'd be friends with such a guy. Her intense dislike should have clued me in that something was off when suddenly she was inviting Rick to our plans and growing distant, glued to her phone, avoiding intimacy, and coming home late. One day, her behavior got too suspicious. She was texting someone, and when I asked who it was, she snapped, calling me controlling. I later confided in Rick about how their closeness was bothering me, and he brushed it off, making me feel paranoid. It was clear I was being gaslit. Then, Bella said she needed some space and was visiting her sister for the weekend. Something felt wrong, so I called her sister, who was expecting Bella but she hadn't shown up yet. On a hunch, I drove by Rick's place late that night, and there it was, Bella's car parked right out front. My heart sank. I let myself in through the back, my mind racing, and then I heard it, Bella's moans echoing down the hallway. I was shaking as I reached the bedroom door. Peeking inside, I saw them together. Bella on his nightstand, an image that's burned into my mind forever. I confronted them, and the look of shock on their faces. I walked out, my world crumbling, ignoring Bella's pleas. I drove away, tears streaming down my face, feeling utterly betrayed. Since then, I've been staying with a friend, unable to eat or sleep, just replaying everything over and over. Work gave me some time off, but the calls from both Rick and Bella and our families have been non-stop. I told my family I'm okay, but I haven't answered any of their messages. This whole mess has left me reeling. How could she do this to us? I'm at a loss, folks. Any advice would be appreciated. Just when I think there's no more to come, there's an update. Looking back, our marriage was mostly happy, which is why it's been so hard to let go. But the more I think about her betrayal and how they both manipulated and lied to me, the angrier I get. I can't forget how Bella would snap at me for asking simple questions, or the way Rick dismissed my concerns when I confronted him man to man. Their deceit has not only broken my heart, but also my spirit. And even though Bella tried to act all sweet and loving, claiming she was thinking of me, it's clear she wasn't. She was with Rick, not wearing her panties. A detail that disgusts me now as I realize she was intimate with us both in the same night. I feel so used, so foolish. How could I let them treat me this way? The injustice of it all is overwhelming. My lawyers advised against doing anything rash, warning it could hurt my case in the divorce she now agrees is inevitable. Despite all the pain, Bella's still trying to reach out, sending emails filled with excuses and even scripture about forgiveness. But after everything, how can I even consider forgiveness? I'm trying to keep busy, to distract myself from the pain. And just when I think I can't handle more, I find out Bella's in the hospital after a drug overdose. I'm torn between relief that she's alive and confusion over all her choices that led us here. I still don't know what to make of it all. Why she'd go to such lengths after everything that's happened. It's a lot to process, and I'm just here, trying to figure out where to go from here. Just when I thought things couldn't get more tangled, they did. I'm back at work now, trying to keep myself occupied, keep my mind off the mess that's my personal life. The other day, I received a letter from Bella. I wanted to tear it up, but curiosity got the better of me, and I read it. In it, Bella talked about her therapy, claiming it was uncovering deep-seated issues she never knew she had. Issues like her crippling low self-esteem, which she says made her crave attention from others besides me. Her sister has always been the standout beauty, and Bella felt overshadowed, unattractive next to her, which apparently led her down this path of seeking validation through deceit. She apologized yet again, said it was no excuse for her betrayal, and suggested marriage counseling if I could find it in my heart to try. I didn't respond. I was too numb, too burnt out by all the lies and the pain. Instead, I focused on the divorce. Dividing our assets turned out to be a nightmare. We had separate accounts, sure, but our joint savings were tied up, and without her cooperation, I couldn't access what I was due. Even though I had put in the majority of the cash, it looked like I'd have to split it 50-50. It just added insult to injury. As if dealing with the financial mess wasn't enough, Bella decided to show up at my door the day she was served with the divorce papers. How she found out where I was staying is beyond me. When I opened the door and our eyes met, it was like reliving the whole nightmare. The air was thick with tension, the kind that suffocates. She looked a mess, eyes red and swollen, and before I could shut the door, she was begging me to talk, to reconsider. "I just need to explain," she pleaded, her voice desperate. I didn't want to hear any of it, but she wouldn't take no for an answer, clinging to the door as if it were a lifeline. "VDJNJ, please, just hear me out. We can't end things like this, not without trying to clear the air." DJKJ. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She started with the apologies, the promises of change, and then came the bizarre suggestions. She proposed a trial separation where I could see other people while she worked on herself. She even floated the idea of a one-sided open marriage to benefit me, or relocating to a new state or country, just the two of us, as if a change of scenery could fix years of broken trust. As she talked, all I could do was wonder why. Why him? Why the lies? Why come back to me after everything? Bella broke down, admitting her guilt, confessing how lost she felt in the affair, too deep in to even consider the wreckage she was leaving behind. Her therapist had apparently helped her see that she might have ended up cheating eventually, given her unresolved issues. That stung, knowing it wasn't just about Rick but something broken inside her. "Did you ever even love him?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "No, I never loved Rick," she said quickly, too quickly. "It was all a horrible mistake." "And before this, were there others?" My heart pounded, fearing the answer. She swore there weren't, insisted this was a one-time slip, a devastating error in judgment. But trust was shattered, and her words felt hollow, rehearsed. We talked for hours, but it was mostly Bella crying, pleading for another chance, while I sat there feeling nothing but drained. Eventually, I asked the hardest question. "Is there anything else you're hiding from me?" Her hesitation said it all. After some prodding, she confessed to more than just emotional betrayal. Bella revealed she'd been pregnant shortly after our split. The child could have been Rick's, so she terminated the pregnancy, thinking it would simplify our separation or potential reconciliation. That revelation floored me. I felt like I was suffocating, drowning in her continued deceit. "I just can't do this anymore," I said, standing up. "You need to leave." She sobbed, begged me to reconsider, but I was firm. There's nothing left to say. Bella lingered, her tears continuing to fall, but eventually she left, leaving me in a silence that was both a relief and a heavy burden. I sat back down, the weight of everything crashing down on me. Where had I gone wrong? How did the life we planned spiral so out of control? The certainty of divorce, once a daunting prospect, now seemed like the only clear path forward. I couldn't see any other way out of the pain and the lies. The betrayal was too deep, too raw to ever forget. The days that followed were a blur of routine and numbness. I went back to work full-time, throwing myself into my tasks to avoid thinking about Bella and everything that had crumbled around us. It was a temporary fix, but it helped. Then, another curveball came my way, a call from my mom out of the blue, telling me Bella was in the hospital. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Despite everything, the news jolted me, stirring a mix of old feelings and concern. "She overdosed, but she's stable now," my mom explained, her voice thick with worry. "She was in a psych ward, under close observation." "Why? Why would she do something like that?" The question was rhetorical, more to myself than to my mom. There was a silence on the other end, filled with shared sadness and confusion. I knew I had to see her, not for reconciliation, but to find some closure, to understand why. When I arrived at the hospital, the sight of her, frail and surrounded by machines, was almost too much to bear. She was asleep, a peaceful expression on her face that I hadn't seen in months. It was a stark contrast to the chaos and pain that had defined our recent interactions. Sitting there, watching her breathe, the weight of our shared past, all the love that had once been, settled heavy on my chest. I left before she woke up. There were no words left that could bridge the gap between us, no gestures that could undo the hurt. But seeing her there, vulnerable and alone, reignited a sliver of the affection I once felt. It was enough to soften the bitterness, but not enough to reconsider the path I was on. The divorce proceedings were already in motion, and despite the complications with our shared assets, I was determined to see it through. Bella's actions, driven by whatever pain or demons she was battling, couldn't derail the necessity of cutting ties. Our finances were a tangled mess, years of shared dreams and savings that now had to be meticulously divided. The thought of wrangling over bank accounts and who owed what was daunting. My lawyer reassured me, promising to handle the details, advising me to focus on rebuilding my life piece by piece. As I sat in my lawyer's office going over the financial disclosures and separation agreements, I felt a pang of sadness for all the plans we had made. There were moments when the grief of losing not just my wife but my best friend, and the life I knew, threatened to overwhelm me. But each step of the legal process, each signature on those stark white papers, reinforced the necessity of moving on. It was a slow, painful unraveling of a tapestry we'd woven together with so much hope and love. One evening, as I sifted through old photos and memories, trying to decide what to keep and what to discard, I stumbled upon a letter Bella had written to me years ago. It was full of love and promises, dreams of the future we were supposed to build together. Reading her words, so full of hope and affection, I couldn't help but mourn the loss of what could have been. It wasn't just the betrayal that stung, but the realization of how far we had strayed from those early, innocent days of love and laughter. I had to make peace with the fact that the Bella I knew then was not the Bella I was divorcing now. People change, and sometimes they lose their way so profoundly that the only option is to let go, no matter how painful it is. I was learning to accept that, to forgive not for her sake, but for my own healing. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting or excusing her actions. It was about freeing myself from the anger and bitterness that had taken root in my heart. As I filed away the letter, alongside other remnants of our past, I felt a slight ease in the tightness around my chest. It was a small step towards healing, a moment of letting go that seemed both insignificant and monumental. In the quiet of my apartment, surrounded by boxes of a life half-packed, half-lived, I realized that moving forward wasn't just about physical separation or legal proceedings. It was about reclaiming my sense of self, the part of me that had been overshadowed and neglected through the turmoil of a failing marriage. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges and new beginnings, but for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to face it. The pain of the past would always be a part of me, a bitter chapter in my story, but it would not define my future. As I started to settle into a rhythm of solitary life, my days became a mix of work, quiet evenings, and the occasional catch-up with friends who'd been my lifeline through the darkest moments. Their support was a constant reminder that, despite the upheaval, I wasn't alone. Slowly, the raw edges of my emotions began to dull, the sharpness of betrayal giving way to a more profound understanding of my journey and the lessons learned. Then one afternoon, a knock on my door jolted me from my thoughts. It was Bella, unannounced and unexpected. Seeing her standing there, a mix of hope and despair in her eyes, brought back a flood of emotions I thought I had managed to compartmentalize. She looked different, worn but determined, a stark contrast to the vibrant woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. It wasn't a demand, but a plea, one that resonated with a part of me still tied to the past. I hesitated but eventually nodded, stepping aside to let her in. The familiar scent of her perfume, a ghost from our past life together, filled the air, unsettling yet oddly comforting. We sat down, the tension palpable, each of us bracing for the conversation neither truly wanted but both needed. "I've completed my therapy," Bella began, her hands fidgeting nervously. "And I've learned so much about myself, about why I did those terrible things." Her eyes met mine, searching for any sign of softening. "I'm not asking for reconciliation. I know that's too much. But I need you to know that I am truly, deeply sorry for the pain I caused." Her words, sincere as they seemed, were difficult to process. Part of me wanted to believe her, to find some solace in her growth and acknowledgement of her mistakes. Another part, scarred and wary, remained guarded, protective of the fragile peace I'd managed to build. "I appreciate your apology," I responded after a long pause. "And I'm glad you're finding your way through therapy. But I've moved on, Bella, or at least I'm trying to." The conversation that followed was a dance of regret and acceptance. Bella shared her realizations and the hard truths she'd faced about her actions and their impact not only on our marriage, but on her personal sense of integrity. It was a conversation full of might-have-beens and what-ifs, a delicate thread connecting our shared past with our separate futures. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the room, Bella stood to leave. "I hope you find happiness truly," she said, her voice steadier than when she had arrived. "You deserve that." Watching her walk away, the finality of our parting hit me with unexpected force. It marked the end of our shared narrative, the closing of a chapter filled with love, betrayal, and eventual growth. I was left alone with my thoughts, reflecting on the closure we'd both sought and perhaps found in our own ways. The following weeks were a testament to the power of resilience. I immersed myself in my passions, rediscovering interests that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. Photography, which had always been a hobby, became a therapeutic outlet, capturing moments of beauty in the mundane. Each photo, a snapshot of life moving forward, was a step away from the past, a celebration of renewal. My social circle gradually expanded, not with new faces, but with old friends who re-emerged, offering laughter and companionship. We shared meals, stories, and the kind of easy camaraderie that comes from long-standing connections. These moments, simple yet profound, were reminders of the joy that could be found in new beginnings. One crisp evening, as I set up my camera for a shot of the twilight skyline, a sense of peace settled over me. The city lights twinkled like stars grounded to earth, each a beacon of possibility. It was a scene I'd photographed 100 times before, but that night, it felt different. I was different. The heartache that had once threatened to define me was now just one part of a larger, richer tapestry of life experiences. Life, I realized, wasn't about avoiding the bruises or the breaks. It was about healing from them, learning, and stepping into each new day with a little more wisdom and a lot more hope. And as the shutter clicked, capturing the perfect alignment of light and shadow, I knew I was ready to embrace whatever came next, unburdened by the past and open to the future. As the days turned into weeks, my newfound sense of independence grew stronger. The routine of daily life, once overshadowed by the turmoil of my failed marriage, now brought a comforting rhythm. My job, always a place of professional fulfillment, became a sanctuary of normalcy, where I could excel and redefine my identity outside the shadows of personal heartache. One evening, while sifting through some old boxes I had yet to unpack, I came across a collection of our old travel journals. Each page was a vivid reminder of the adventures Bella and I had shared across the globe. Flipping through the pages, I was momentarily transported back to those times of joy and discovery. But rather than sorrow, I felt a surge of gratitude for those experiences, acknowledging that they were part of what shaped me into who I was today. The process of healing wasn't linear. Some days were harder than others, with waves of nostalgia that threatened to pull me back into sadness. But I learned to ride these waves, treating them as reminders of my capacity to love deeply, and now, to move on just as profoundly. My evenings, once a time for reflection and sometimes sadness, gradually became periods of active engagement and personal development. I enrolled in a cooking class, something I'd always wanted to do but never found the time for. Each session was a discovery of flavors and techniques, and the communal aspect of cooking with others brought a new joy into my life. It was here, among simmering pots and fragrant spices, that I began to feel the stirrings of contentment and the possibility of new friendships. One night, after a particularly enjoyable cooking class, I invited a few classmates over for an impromptu dinner at my place. The evening was filled with laughter and shared stories, a stark contrast to the many quiet nights I had spent alone. Cooking for others brought a sense of fulfillment that I hadn't realized I was missing, and their appreciation of my efforts was a balm to my soul. During this time, I also reconnected with my passion for writing. I started a blog, sharing not just recipes, but also reflections on life, loss, and the unexpected turns we all face. Writing became therapeutic, a way to articulate the feelings and thoughts that often swirled through my mind. The feedback from readers, many of whom had gone through similar experiences, was overwhelmingly positive, and I found a community of support in the virtual world. As autumn turned to winter, the colder days lent themselves to introspection and the warmth of indoor pursuits. My apartment, once a place of painful memories, gradually turned into a cozy sanctuary filled with books, photos, and the aroma of home-cooked meals. I took pride in my space, arranging and decorating in a way that reflected my current tastes and the new chapter of my life. One chilly evening, as I sat by the window watching the snow gently fall, I realized how far I had come. The pain of the past, once a constant companion, had receded, leaving behind lessons of resilience and the knowledge that I could face whatever challenges came my way. The tranquility of the scene outside mirrored the peace I had finally found within myself. This newfound peace was not just about recovering from heartbreak. It was about embracing the journey of life with all its imperfections and surprises. It was about understanding that every ending is also a beginning, and that grief, when navigated with patience and self-compassion, can lead to a deeper appreciation of life's gifts. I no longer looked back with anger or regret, but with a clear-eyed recognition of how my experiences had enriched me, teaching me about the depths of my own strength and the unexplored possibilities of the future. As I watched the snow blanket the world in white, I felt a profound connection to the rhythm of life, to the cycles of loss and renewal that define our existence. In that quiet moment, with the soft whisper of snow against the window pane, I felt ready to move forward, to embrace the unknown, and to allow myself to love and live fully again, unencumbered by the past and inspired by the promise of tomorrow. The winter months passed, and with the arrival of spring, the world around me seemed to awaken with new life, mirroring the renewal I felt within. The longer days and warmer weather inspired me to venture outside more often, reconnecting with nature and the simple pleasures that had once brought me so much joy. One Saturday morning, I decided to revisit a hiking trail Bella and I had often explored together. As I walked the familiar path, the memories of our past trips floated through my mind. Yet, instead of sadness, I felt a sense of peace. The beauty of the forest, with its budding trees and chirping birds, reminded me of the cycle of life, of endings and beginnings, and of the resilience inherent in nature, which I had come to find in myself. During one of these hikes, I met Emma, a fellow nature enthusiast. Our chance meeting happened as we both paused to admire a particularly scenic overlook. Conversation flowed easily between us, and I found her company to be both comforting and invigorating. Emma, with her keen interest in the outdoors and her vibrant spirit, brought a new dimension to my appreciation of these excursions. Over the weeks, our casual meetings on the trail evolved into planned hikes. The more time I spent with Emma, the more I appreciated her perspective on life, her optimism, and her ability to find joy in the smallest of things. It was refreshing and contagious. We shared stories of our lives, our triumphs, and our heartaches. With Emma, I felt a connection that was rooted in the present, free from the shadows of my past. As spring gave way to summer, Emma and I began to explore more challenging trails, pushing each other to new heights, both literally and metaphorically. Hiking with her not only improved my physical stamina, but also bolstered my emotional resilience. The physical exertion of climbing, coupled with the tranquility of nature, provided a perfect backdrop for self-discovery and for forging a new friendship that seemed to promise more with each passing day. One particularly memorable hike led us to a summit just in time to catch a breathtaking sunset. As we sat there, watching the sky paint itself with hues of orange and pink, Emma turned to me and said, "It's amazing how every sunset is unique, isn't it? Just like every day, every experience, no matter how similar it seems, holds its own beauty." Her words struck a chord with me. They reminded me of how far I had come, from the depths of despair to these moments of genuine happiness and appreciation. It was a journey marked by many sunsets and sunrises, each one different, each one a step away from the past and toward a future that was gradually becoming brighter. Our summer of hiking culminated in a weekend camping trip to a national park neither of us had visited before. Preparing for the trip, working together to set up our campsite, and sharing stories by the campfire, these experiences deepened our bond. The natural setting, away from the distractions of everyday life, allowed us to open up about our hopes and dreams for the future. In the flickering firelight, with the stars overhead, I felt a surge of optimism about what life still had to offer. Emma became not just a friend, but a significant part of my healing process. With her, I rediscovered my ability to trust, to open up, and to love again. She taught me that while the scars of the past never fully disappear, they do fade, becoming less defining and more a testament to our capacity to overcome. As the summer waned, I realized that my feelings for Emma had grown beyond friendship. The thought of exploring the potential for something deeper was both exciting and daunting. Yet, armed with the lessons of the past and the fresh perspective I had gained, I felt ready to take that leap. The end of that summer marked not just a seasonal change, but a personal transformation. The man who had once viewed the world through a lens of betrayal and loss was now seeing it through one of hope and new beginnings. Emma and I stood at the threshold of a new chapter, one that was uncertain, but filled with the promise of mutual growth and shared adventures. As I looked forward to the autumn, with its promise of new colors and cooler days, I felt a profound gratitude for the unexpected turns of life. The journey from heartbreak to healing had been long and fraught with challenges, but it had led me to a place of greater understanding and appreciation for life's ever-changing landscape. Autumn brought with it a crispness that refreshed the soul and painted the world in shades of amber and gold. As the leaves changed, so did my life, evolving into something richer and more fulfilling than I had dared to hope for in the depths of my despair. My relationship with Emma deepened, grounded in shared experiences and a mutual understanding that was both comforting and exhilarating. We found joy in the simple act of walking through the park, our steps crunching on the carpet of fallen leaves, our conversations ranging from the mundane to the profound. Emma had a way of seeing the world that challenged and inspired me. She pushed me to engage more deeply with my passions and to reconnect with old friends whom I had neglected during my marriage's tumultuous end. One cool October evening, Emma and I hosted a dinner party together. It was a significant step for me, blending my old life with my new one, introducing Emma to the close friends who had stood by me through my darkest times. The night was filled with laughter and storytelling, the warmth of friendship enveloping us all. Seeing Emma interact with my friends, fitting seamlessly into the tapestry of my life, filled me with a profound sense of peace and happiness. Reflecting on my journey, from the pain of a betrayal that seemed to define me to the joy of a love that transformed me, I was profoundly grateful. The road had been long and sometimes difficult, but it had led me to a place of happiness and fulfillment I had once thought unreachable. My story, marked by its trials and triumphs, was a reminder that life, though unpredictable, is also replete with opportunities for growth and renewal. Through the seasons of heartache and the seasons of joy, I had learned that the essence of life is not just to endure, but to thrive, to not just survive, but to find a deeper meaning in the experiences we collect along the way. As Emma and I looked ahead, we saw not a clear and predictable path, but a journey that we were eager to navigate together, with all its potential surprises and certainties. With love and commitment as our guides, we were ready to continue exploring the vast, beautiful landscape of life, knowing that whatever challenges we might face, we would face them together. And so our story continues, a narrative of love rediscovered, lives intertwined, and the unending quest for happiness and meaning in the tapestry of life.